New for 96. With your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
Enough dead air for you. Good dead air.
Yeah, it's good dead air.
Yeah, see? Look at this. Apple Watch. I can check up on my news while we're podcasting.
I can't believe you're wearing an Apple Watch.
I know. I only plan to wear it when I am being active and when I'm at home, because otherwise it is just a bit much, don't you think? Anyways.
Yeah. It seems like one of those things where it only works if you have it on all the time.
Maybe. I find it extremely irritating when people wear an Apple Watch in one wrist and a wristwatch on the other wrist. A regular watch on the other wrist.
I give it 6
Have you not seen
before
that?
You're doing it.
No. Also, there are people who wear the double bands where on top it's a mechanical watch and then on the bottom is an Apple Watch.
What?
I don't care for that.
That doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It's terrible. It's like they're the same people who wore like cell phones on their belt clip, in still to this day. What
if someone had like a next side by side Apple Watch and real watch?
I don't know about that either. This is a weird, I'm going to have to figure this one out because this really is just for when I'm running or at the gym. I'm not going to wear this otherwise, but I have to say it's pretty handy. Like,
what is it recording at the gym? Or using it just so you have your texts and stuff?
Yeah, because I leave the phone in the locker, so it's so much easier than having to carry it around with me. Mm-hmm. So it's for the phone and it's for, messages, whatever. And it tracks steps, running. It actually there's a climbing app, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually don't know how it works just yet. I downloaded it, but it will track like your elevations and how fast it takes you to climb a thing. But
it's not tracking if you're on a treadmill.
I'm sure it tracks steps on a treadmill. I don't know. I don't understand how science works, and so how the magic of the Apple Watch is doing its thing. But I'm curious. I'm excited. Oh, you should be interested in exactly one feature.
Okay.
Which is that the Apple Watch has a remote shutter for your iPhone.
Oh.
And it's not just a remote shutter. It actually is a viewfinder. So
that's cool.
It remote gives you a view of what your phone is displaying at the time. So if you have to place it in some like weird angle, you can just look down at the Apple Watch and be done with it.
That is very cool.
I'm into that. Mm-hmm. The other thing that might be useful, actually, if you're in an old car and you have retrofitted Bluetooth, which is guaranteed to be terrible,
mm-hmm.
The speakerphone is very nice on the watch because you can just speak into your wrist. I don't know if it's considered to be handheld though. It's wrist held. You know that
you mean for like changing the song, not for the speaker?
No. For talking to Tracy style into your wrist.
like phone calls.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can see that being good.
Because you have Bluetooth in the Sport Cross, technically by way of
I don't have Bluetooth hands-free phones in anything.
But you can use your Bluetooth streaming thing as a
it doesn't work.
It's bad. I have one in the Celsior.
Yeah.
The little cigarette lighter one. Mm-hmm. It works okay for music streaming. It works extremely worse for phone calls.
Yeah.
So, and the 911 actually has an old stock Blaupunk head unit with Bluetooth built into it, and they wired a mic into the car in a hidden place. And it is the worst thing in the world. Like, no one can understand me, no one can hear me because the car is so loud and it's just not ideal. So I'm thinking maybe this is a good solution for if I have to take a call in the car. So we'll see. But then I won't have it on because in theory I'll be wearing a mechanical watch.
Right.
So I don't know. Stop glazing over. Stop turning into a skeleton and falling to pieces.
I'm just having to wake up.
Watches are interesting.
It seems like whenever you'd want the features of the Apple Watch, you won't have it on. And whenever when you do have it on, you won't be taking advantage of what it can do. Because
what if I wore it as an amulet?
Don't use big words around me.
I put a chain on it, and much like the amethyst stone that you gave me for my birthday, because you know it's my birthstone. I shouldn't know what my birthstone is. I'll wear it around my neck.
No, it's Daphne's.
It's Daphne's.
No, sapphire.
I don't know. Oh my God, you're just too immersed in that world of Frasier. Fine. Speaking of which, speaking of the 90s.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of New for 96.
Don't have to worry about peaking there.
Nope. Did we even introduce the last one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed because I don't remember some of that.
Some?
Oh my God.
Carry on. What were you saying about the whiskey, 90s?
But it was an enjoyable episode.
It was good.
It was a great episode.
It was good.
Yeah. The 90s. Okay. So I've been watching a lot of, already. You just had like an entire bottle, literally, before we started the show.
Bottle.
It was an airplane-sized bottle of Glenlivet 14. A newly released 14. They did not have this the previous year. This is the first year of that barreling. Anyways, it was a plain-sized one.
Yes.
Which is satisfying to pour, but not satisfying when you stop pouring because it's just a pour.
Right. You're like holding it, like waiting for the last drips.
Really shaking that down to the last drop. Okay. I've been watching a lot of just because Hulu has been releasing a lot of like old 90s shows that have not yet been available on streaming for a long time now.
I've heard this before.
Well, because we've discussed this, but now I get to discuss it on air.
Okay.
I have a platform with which to annoy people other than you. Okay. What cars stick in your mind from like 90s TV shows? Because obviously on air, people aren't going to get specific. No one's going to say like McLaren F1 or something on like step by step. But I've been watching.
You mean like citing or in discussion?
Both.
And is this your way of segueing to designing women?
Yes, but all of the above. But not just designing women, which actually has very few cars in it. So I've been watching just because it's there, and I was curious enough to click on the thumbnail. Doogie Howser, which was 1988, I think. 90210, which I think was 89. I watched the pilot episode yesterday, which was like an hour and 15 minutes long.
Wow.
But it has one of the best intros for car interest. So the first few scenes are of the family moving to Beverly Hills and then them going to the first day of school, and the entire cast has just turned 16, and so they all have cars, and it is like a nonstop 2-minute montage of the best of Radwood cars.
Oh, that's cool.
It's
and it's
really
showing
good.
And it's showing how like the debauchery and how spoiled these kids are, but it's like now it's like, oh, it's so cool.
One of the characters, of course, has like an E30 3 Series Cabriolet. One has a C4 Corvette. Another person has this car was not part of the cast's cars, but they kept showing it over and over as an image of opulence, of California opulence, but it was a G model. I didn't look to see if it was a Carrera and SC, but it was a G model Targa, white, with 2 surfboards sticking out of the back.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they just kept showing it over and over.
What year was this premiere? Like 91 or 2?
I think it was 80. No, it was like 89 or something.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty, yeah. I could be wrong on that. But also what I think is funny is that in that same episode, or in that same montage, they show that G-body, but then they show like wheels like rolling up, just like shots of rims rolling up. And they had the 964, like the standard 964 wheels.
Oh, like
so it might have been 90. It might have been 90.
The Normcore ones.
Yeah, the Normcore one. The kind of like I don't even know what to call them. They don't have a name. I'm sure they
Right.
do. But anyways, it was the standard 964 wheels. So I guess it might have been 90. But W124s, period Rolls Royces, a Scirocco of the era.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was pretty cool. It was a good montage. I wanted to post that to Twitter, but it's such a long montage. I don't think anyone will listen to it or watch it.
Compress it into 14 GIFs.
I should just do that because I posted a thing that ended up
the wheels roll pulling up would be a good GIF.
that would be a good one. I did actually make a short clip that ended up in Jalopnik. One of when it was
With Matthew Perry or something.
with Matthew Perry
Yeah, I
when
remember that.
what is the actor's name? Luke Perry died.
Yeah.
It was Luke Perry driving his 356, which was a real 356, and they were cheap at the time of the filming, so they actually turned it into a speedster.
Yeah.
They chopped the roof themselves, the set design or whoever, the prop designers, and it was Matthew Perry who was playing a spoiled brat, and he had a red. I don't remember if it was a Targa or an SC.
I think it was a Targa.
Oh, it was a Targa, but I didn't know if it was an SC or a Carrera, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, I kind of like the notion that, this was at that point, well into the 90s, and he had the old model. So, and it was supposed to be a showy show. So,
It depends on when this episode aired,
that is true.
which
That
you
is
don't
true.
know.
I don't know. No. This other one
later
had to been mid 90s.
Okay.
So at that point, we're we might even be into 993 territory at this point.
Okay.
Anyways, but he pulls out of the parking lot, so he's trying to drag race Luke Perry in the 356, and he pulls out of the parking lot, and he does a fishtail in the Targa, which is very feasible, but I think more likely someone would be spinning out if they were trying that in real life.
Sorry, if I'm glazing over, it's because I know I have to listen to this again on the edit.
Fine, whatever. But anyways, this is okay. Wait, so you go. I'm sure there's a '90s TV show that.
I forgot the question.
Oh my god.
I mean, who could forget Jerry Seinfeld's Sobs?
Yeah, that's too easy though.
It is easy, and then there was the Viper program, which I think I saw. It caught a few
Oh,
episodes.
it's where it morphs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was.
Do you remember the episode or the show? I feel like it was a Saturday night ABC or CBS show with the Dodge Stealth.
No.
Okay, I actually think it was called Stealth or something. The show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember on Wings. I remember Helen had a CJ Wrangler.
Oh, yeah,
And she drove it through the office.
Friends. They had. Oh, yeah, it would have been the 90s. There was
Friends, there was
a Targa,
very few cars. Yeah, there was.
the 996.
Oh,
Joey's fake 996.
Yeah.
It was a cab with a hard top too.
Yeah, but now we're talking 2000s.
That's 2000s, yeah. You can't go for the obvious ones like Miami Vice with the Testarossa. I think that's too obvious. Same thing with Tom Selleck in the 308.
Remember, we've talked about this before, but remember on Home Improvement, it would always be Tim Taylor's working on a car, and it's oh, I hope he built something cool, and it's always another hot
it's
rod.
a hot rod. It's a 40s hot
I
rod.
just never cared about the cars he was building, and I love the idea of oh man, I'm I wish my dad would build a car in the garage and we could work on it together, and then it's you see what it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's
and
a 46 Ford or whatever.
And it would be they'd get Chip Foose to make the cars for the show. It's just oh, the worst.
Yeah. I mean, Jill's car, the wife, she had an Austin Healey, which was cool. I mean, it's not a car that we're interested in.
I don't remember that.
But they had other cars too on the show, I feel like. Okay, well, he can be redeemed by way of the Santa Claus, where he had the tour show, which was his own personal tour show.
Oh, that's cool.
On the show or on the movie. I distinctly remember in the early 90s when Lexus first came out, and it was used as a device to indicate yuppie opulence. And I remember a step-by-step episode where someone was mentioning they're leaving someone for somebody else because they just bought a Lexus coupe with the gold package and Nakamichi sound system. I was as a kid, I was oh my God, I know what that means. And no one else does, I am sure.
I was gonna say it's funny because it's hard to imagine a car. So that show was like 93 to 96 or something. Like it's hard to imagine a brand taking hold and having like such status within like 6 years of it for in the mainstream with normal people.
Isn't that crazy? I think about that too, because like no one's gonna say that about and not that it's not a fine automobile, but like a Genesis.
Right. Like,
I
mean, the only thing that's done that is Tesla.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true. Tesla would be very parallel to Lexus of the early
as far
90s.
as like the ramping up the growth and everything.
I mean, it happened pretty quickly because in an episode of Doogie Howser, one of the doctors, like in this weird scene, was like, "Oh yeah, I love my Lexus. I'll never drive anything else." And it was like an episode from '91. So Lexus in America had been out for a year at that point.
Wow.
So it was that solidified. And I'm sure like Tesla, when the Model S came out at least, like there were people who were saying, "Oh, I love my Tesla. I'll never drive anything else." So and to this day, I'm sure there are the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well. Yeah. There you go. Trip.
Wow.
This is just because of my like watching habits that I am just like
cut this down to 24 minutes.
I know. Oh, whatever. Anyways, I will say one last thing, and I sent screen caps of this to the text, but I will.
If I had an Apple Watch right now, I'd be checking.
Oh my God. While Doogie Howser it's turning out to be a lot campier than I remember it to be. Like the early episodes, there was a lot of car talk about like he wanted an E30 as his first car, and his dad drove a 750 IL. Ooh. And he would talk about the 750, borrowing the 750 all the time. That's
cool.
So I thought it was kind of cool that they even mentioned so specifically that. Okay, so there you go. This is very like these are the things. They're the formative things that like developed evolved our interests as we know it today.
Yeah. No, that BMW thing reminds me of so my dad told me like when he was like some executive at some company in 95. And so the company, like they got a lease. So he got his E34 on a lease.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like I didn't know anything about cars at the time because I was like 11 or something. Like I think he just didn't really include me in that because I think it was like a work thing. Like I imagine what happened is it's like you've got to pick a car like tomorrow or today, and he just like didn't consult me.
Incredibly interesting that your dad picked the 530i because at the time you could get the 525 or the 540i, and something spoke to him and said, "Don't be too ambitious. You should go for the middle, the 3-liter V8."
Yeah, I mean that's probably how I would approach the problem. I was like, well, I don't want the cheap one, but the top one is like a blatant ripoff. If I mean that's how I look at like Apple products. I guess that's like exactly how I look at Apple products. I'm like, well, the very top of the line is for suckers. I don't want the bottom base one, so it's like this one seems about right.
I guess so. I'm curious about like the mindset of the time. I don't know what the costs differences were, but just that like it basically was just V8 by name more than anything.
Right.
And then it turned out to be a catastrophic like decision should you bought one.
I think the 40 had the same issues because it was cylinder linings on all the V8s. Like this was the first V8 BMW made for like 50 years. Or 30 years or something. But I don't remember if anyone he worked with had a BMW, but like, one of his work pals or something was like, "Oh yeah, like let me tell you, like if you
bold move that he chose that from the company catalog."
But his pal or something was like, "Oh yeah, if you have a BMW, you say like, or if you have a 3 Series, you tell people, yeah, I have a BMW. If you have like a 5 or a 7 Series, you say, I have a 5 Series or a 7 Series. Like it's like when it's a better one. So it's like if you have a 750, you don't say
it's the echelon.
I have a 7 Series. You say I have a 750.
It's like Fraser when he moved from the 5 Series, multiple 5 Series to the 7 Series.
Yeah. He
moved up in the world. Yeah. Of course, when he moved on to the 7 Series, it was not a good time. It was not a good time for BMW.
No.
So he got the Bengal 7.
Yeah. I was driving past. I tried to get a picture or a video, but I was driving past a buy here, pay here a lot.
Yeah.
Today on Shepherd, and there was an E65 7 Series.
Whoa.
And it was like, and the hazard lights were on.
Oh no.
I don't know why.
Oh my God.
I thought maybe someone was locking or unlocking it, but it kept going.
Oh, that's the terrible thing, is that those cars are so cheap right now. And okay, there is such a big difference between like an E36, E46, E38, like buying an old cheap version of those. And those are still like not without need, but then can you imagine buying like a Bengal 7 or an E60, even an E90, honestly, if you're just looking for a cheap car, is a bad idea. Like those are just so complicated now.
Well, and I never was the type that bitched about CarPlay, but imagine having CarPlay now when it's like that first generation and it's got to be like a 200 by 100 resolution screen.
Yeah.
Just imagine having to do that for controls of the car.
That is awful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, like, this has already been a topic of discussion in the automotive enthusiast world, but like the fact that like several manufacturers are replacing all controls with touch screens in the future, what does that mean? As in, like, Range Rover was one of the first to have an all digital dash, and of all companies to have experimental technology with key system components. That one's got to be interesting. I have not Googled, and I like that era Range Rover. It's the facelift, or LCI, if you will. Third gen Range
Just
Rover?
give me years. I don't know the gens.
Anyways,
I don't know what they consider
it was
gen.
the early 2000s
Facelift.
but this is the facelift version,
So like
which I think looks a lot cleaner.
2006 or something to
It was like
10.
it was like 09 or 10 or something like that.
Oh,
And
okay.
Basically, right before they went to the
aluminum.
the current,
Okay.
So
Yeah, that was like 2013.
yeah, so they had upgraded it. The interior looked a lot nicer with the LCI, and they went with an all digital dash and this and that. Same airbag problems, of course, same air suspension problems, but otherwise, I like how that looks, and if it wasn't for like all of the data on the internet about how horrible it might be to own, I would actually love one of those as a daily driver. It's comfy, it's stylish, like I like how it looks. I bet you a supercharged one drives decently.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a last of the BMW involvement with that car. So with that truck. So I don't know, but neither here nor there, because I'm not going to buy any Land Rover product anytime soon.
It's probably a good move.
Yeah. A shame. But we could move on to, speaking of daily drivers.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
I had some follow up.
Oh, God.
One of our listeners, Michael Cosgrove, had a much better suggestion for what we should import that's under 25 years.
Really?
Yeah. We were thinking too small because because
our like very plebeian oriented minds, addled minds, we could only think of cars that we could buy now. Like ourselves, right? Because that's all our arms reach.
Well, and also it's hard to remember because like it seems like all the forbidden fruit was in the 90s, and it seems like after 2005 everything's just came here also. So he suggested the new Alpine 110 A110, which is a extremely good pick.
That is pretty good.
That's like tailor made for the criteria we had was under I think $75,000.
Yeah,
and unable to be sold here. And so if you could pick anything globally that under that price and import it and have it come in. So that, and he also said the E36 M3 GT2 Evo, which would be pretty cool.
Both are pretty good. Wow,
they're pretty good picks.
Pretty good. We did not even go close to that far.
Right.
I was like, how about a Ford Mondeo?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of a car that's 25 years old, this one's 23 years old.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Oh, and can I talk about this new challenge I have?
All right.
Okay.
I guess.
You went on about designing women for 45 minutes.
Oh, I did not.
So
I
the
spoke
other day,
about step by step. Doogie Howser.
So the other day I sent you.
Yes.
We were looking at a car listing or something, and I sent you like, oh, it's like, I'm like, this looks like a nice 964. And you just scroll down, and the price, it was just like a white 964, and the price was $440,000.
Yeah.
And the reason was because it's a like club sport. It was a race car that was essentially the RS, and it was sold here, and it was never raced because the series folded. And
okay, that dealership had a lot of interesting cars.
Yeah. Well, didn't they also have a GT, a 993? Was that no? That was also on Classic Driver. I don't think it was the same dealership.
No, they had something else. I forget what it was. We sent like a bunch of things, but I sent you the listing because it was a not yet posted. They didn't have any photos, but it was a 996 C4S in speed yellow. Yeah. For a very good price. And then you started scrolling around the site, and you noticed that the dealership had like a bunch of, it was a Porsche dealership, and it had just a bunch of really cool cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forget what the other one.
So I also saw in the same time, I don't remember if it was on Classic Driver or I think it was on the same site. It was like a 993 Club Sport RS. And it was like $499,000 with no miles on it. Yeah. It was a lot of money. And so it brought me to this question, which I'll make as brief as possible. But it was, if you had $500,000 to get one car, unlimited, free maintenance, and you could still have your current car. So it's not like one car for your entire life.
See,
and it's an interesting question.
It's an interesting proposition because I think a lot of automotive enthusiasts would approach this from how we approach if you could import anything under $75,000, notion of what can I get at arm's reach? And then you and I had multiple discussions about, for $500,000, which is a lot of money because our minds immediately go to, well, I would just buy $5 $100,000 cars or $10 $50,000 cars.
Right. No, it's really easy to buy a $250,000 car and then
I've just kicked a thing. It's literally underneath you. It's the soda. Yeah.
It's easy to buy, or it's easy to say I want a $250,000 car and then this $60,000 car and a $20,000 car. Or whatever.
One singular
car, because
$500,000 car is pretty hard.
It is hard because $500,000 it gets you a lot. It doesn't get you everything.
Exactly.
You can't buy a Carrera GT for
to
that.
Pinpoint one, because there's kind of a point of diminishing returns. I feel like when it comes to spending money on a car, where if you start spending above, I don't know. I mean, this is arbitrary, but let's say above $120,000. The value is not necessarily commiserate to every dollar that you spend. It just happens to be that it is rare. And so that's why it just becomes more expensive in theory. So we gave a lot of thought to this, and we threw a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
And well, we are Porsche people, and there are a lot of ways to spend $500,000 in the Porsche world, especially the classic world or resto mod world. I'm going to go away from that just because it's such a varied experience. I feel like if you bought just one Porsche at $500,000, whatever that might be, whether it is a Singer,
You're just giving all my options.
Whether it's a 993, GT3 or anything that can fall under this $500,000.
That's the other component of this, is because I don't want to feel like a sucker, so I wouldn't want to buy a $150,000 car because you don't get that extra money. So in this scenario, you don't get the extra money. So it's you want to maximize the spend.
That's the thing, is that so if you were to buy one car, I wouldn't buy a car at $500,000 where there's so many variations of it. At multiple price points, but also at that same price point. I think I'd go the other way, where I couldn't have a regret, as in it is a complete experience in and of itself. So my pick for that and we discussed this before, is going to be a Lexus LFA.
That's a good pick.
So, because there is no commiserate experience to that. Like, there are no other options in that realm, really. I mean, and maybe that's more of like a Mark thing, because there are obviously other V10s and blah, 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 blah. But this is I think it's a really unique experience. It's not the fastest, it's not the slowest. It is just a unique experience.
I agree. Yeah. So
that's my pick.
Well, I went around, I bounced around, and I didn't want them to all be Porsches, but you could get a 997 GT3 RS 4.0, which is very special. The last Metzger GT3. You get a 993 Turbo S.
Yeah.
I did write LFA.
Yeah.
And there's probably something Ferrari I would want.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like a 550 Maranello with a stick does not get near the 500K.
I'd almost go classic with.
But what kind of classic? I've heard
Dino.
I've
just
heard
because like there's it's the same Porsche problem in that like the experiences that you could have for that amount of money are so varied with that mark that at some point you're going to feel like you're missing out. I feel like, because you've just bought an example and it just happened to be $500,000. So I'm going to say, at least with a vintage experience, it's not the fastest. It is maybe not the slowest, but it's unique. So if you buy a modern car, I feel like you're going to think, at $500,000, you could have also had this, you could have this, you could have this.
23 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would have a Singer commissioned.
Okay.
I think that would
pretty
scratch
good.
so many itches of being a classic and still fast and unique.
Literally the assemblage of the best things about Porsche. So I think it's pretty good.
You could, I think you can get one in the 400s special order, and you wait like 3 years.
Yeah.
So
we saw the graveyard. There are a few.
Yeah.
There are a few lining up to be built.
They have a long order list.
Yeah. That's pretty good, because I think the key for if you have that, the open end, and I feel like $500,000 is the open end. You can obviously buy cars more expensive than that, but at the same time, it's so much money. It's so much money in terms of options. Like, basically 90% of the car world is available to you, and that's probably an overstatement. It's probably more like 65. I don't know. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I think the goal of having one car choice is that you don't have regrets. You can't have regrets. Not that you couldn't, and there are not better options, but you pick the one thing that you cannot get otherwise.
And it's still going to be interesting to you in 10 years. If you buy the latest McLaren or Ferrari, I don't think you're going to still be in love with it 10
At the
or
very
20
least,
years now.
Your choice is a manual. Mine is an old ZF 8-speed of some kind, but
it's a single clutch. It's a single clutch semi-automatic, like F1 style shifter. It's like a semi-actuated clutch. It's basically SMG.
But well mated to the chassis, so no double clutch. So it's not quite SMG, but more like F1. You're right. It's more like F1 than it is SMG. But either way,
I'm not sure if I'm aware of the differences.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if you are either.
Oh, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
LFA. Singer.
It's a good pick.
Singer 911.
Good picks. I'm sure our listeners will have better picks, and we're going to be like, why the hell didn't we think of that?
Show us up. That is what we want you to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking again of daily drivers, so the wagon is prepared, essentially.
How's that gone?
Listed on BAT. So we have spent, you and I, 3 consecutive weekends taking photos, videos, like media out the beehole to prepare for this listing. Because if you'll note on Bring a Trailer, listings will either have like 15 photos or like 150 photos or more. And it actually is not a signifier of how well it will do one way or another. It just kind of depends on the car. But anyway, so Kevin has graciously shot the wagon, a very ordinary E91 3 Series 328i rear-wheel drive manual wagon.
It's so unique because there has not been one listed it with these specs for like a year.
You made it look heroic. Yeah, about a year. Last January. Yeah, it was the last exact same spec car. So, anyways, as we've spoken on the previous podcasts, I'm listing the car. It's going to be hopefully accepted and then listed soon. And then it'll be on to the next. But I have to say, just because BAT now is just such part of automotive culture, and especially when referencing values and just selling a car, it is hard to avoid. And you and I have been poring over auctions.
Mostly you.
Okay. Yeah. And this is true. And it is true. I pulled up every single E91 auction and evaluated what made it like a good auction, what made it a bad auction.
How many other E91s has there been in the history of the site that are like your spec?
Oh, my spec. I don't know. Maybe like 20.
That are manual rear-wheel drive?
I'm going to say maybe 20. And I might be wrong on that, but that's including pre-LCI. Okay. And considering that there were 427 ever imported, that's not a like outrageous number to have been listed on BAT, I think, but it's anywhere from I'll say between 10 and 20. So I might be 100% off.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are
what I expect.
A lot of them are xDrive manual or xDrive auto or rear-wheel drive auto. So the spec, in my opinion, is rear-wheel drive manual, low mileage, records, etc. So that's the one that I have. I'm hoping that it's going to present well. It'll be listed at the right time in front of the right people, and we shall see. So
I think it's going to be unique because there's never been another E91 presented this well.
Yeah, and
you said you wanted to have like you said you wanted to. After years of looking at BAT, you're like, I want to have the best, most complete BAT listing possible.
My like dumb prompt for this auction was and this is not with any like level of measurement, but like I wanted to have the best or a extremely good auction. Mm-hmm. So we have everything. We have got like hero shots. We've got a million detail shots. We have got underbody carriage. We have got paint meter readings.
Car to car
shots.
Have you shot the paperwork? Like the server?
I haven't yet. That's the last thing I have to shoot, and that'll be easy. But I've got paperworks galore. Like we have got it all, folks. We got videos. I got a walk around. Got a driving with professional mic, wide angle, mounted, the whole thing. This is going to be a complete auction, and it may bring in no more dollars than anything else because if you want this car, you're going to want this car.
The fact that there hasn't been another rear-wheel drive wagon, the fact there hasn't been another one in a year, I think it makes this very interesting. It's an event. It's an event, and the fact that it's the 2011. This is the last of an era of anything. This is the last NA BMW wagon.
It is
that you could buy.
Like, and I'm not even exaggerating. This car was cared for. It is it doesn't even have front plate holes. Like,
that's incredible.
This is ideal. It has minor use marks, like a couple of like little door dings here and there.
Okay, so if it goes to another state where they need a front plate, would you rather they put the holes in the front or do the tow hook thing?
I would say, in the name of future ownership, tow hook. Even though I hate that. I hate it a lot. But
I mean, I'm sure for some people, like, I get it. But
if you have to do it, I guess. What, like, our friend Derek with a GT4 who avoided as long as he could having plates, but in California you do have to have a front plate. Do we know if he eventually did have to register the car?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know what he
curious
did.
what his choice was because I couldn't imagine drilling holes.
Yeah.
So I honestly,
Well, that's the thing is on most cars, they either come with holes or there's like little like spots where it's like started.
you know what? Yeah.
That's what's incredible about
Also,
yours.
there are a lot of, there are not even like little indentations where like manufacturer suggested
Right.
places to start drilling. But I don't know. Like, I think in Texas, there are people, maybe us, maybe not, who willingly choose to not have a front plate.
Do any of your cars have front plates?
No. No. So in a state where it's much more strictly enforced, like California, that's a tough choice because it looks stupid hanging off the side of your car, but also it sucks to have holes drilled into your bumper, and they're unavoidable, and it doesn't matter how good your bumper plugs look, it does not look good.
I remember seeing in like on Pelican or something, like someone with a G model 911 in California, he basically like printed a sticker and it was like 85% scale of his plate, and he just mounted it onto the lower valence.
That's pretty good.
And like if he's ever gotten pulled over, they're like, the cop's like, oh, that's cool. Like I respect that. You know, like the cop is usually a geek on some level where they like, you made like
one would hope,
because
otherwise the dick would be like, that's a counterfeit government,
right. Exactly.
like
exactly.
Document.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think most people that have seen it are like, you tried and it reads, and you know, there wasn't enough space to make it 100%.
Yeah. I will admire like when like I have seen this on a few cars where people are just trying their hardest to avoid bumper holes, and so they will drill them in like the creases, like the designed creases of a bumper or something, so that if you have to take it off, at the very least they're kind of buried in the shadows or the lines of the bumper a little bit. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it, or you just kind of risk it or whatever. But this car has gone its entire life without front plates, and maybe it'll go to another place where it can live on like that. And otherwise, you can be that person who has it uselessly in their windshield. I never got that. Like when people put it like, here you go, technicality. Or they have to use the tow hook mount. But anyway, so it's been a lot of effort. It's been a lot of work. And here's the thing is that I don't know if people realize this, or maybe you do, but if you've sold a car online anywhere, you know it takes a lot of work. Listing it on BAT is about 10 times more work.
Only for you, for your quality standard. And I'm not criticizing you, because I would do this. I would do 90% of the same thing.
I am setting up the auction assets as if I were the potential buyer. This is true, like, because I am neurotic. I am the idiot who asks a million questions.
You and I think of BAT as like what it was 3 years ago, when it was like this, like, you know, if you have a Porsche 911, maybe it's the right place for BAT, but maybe it's not special enough because maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not interesting. You know, like I think now that they do 100 auctions a day or whatever, I don't know if that quality level is there. In fact, I know that it's not.
Well, that's
there
true.
was a Neon SRT4 on there.
I saw you sent that to our group. And you were not pleased. I have to agree that there's a lot more variation on BAT nowadays in terms of not just inventory, but also quality, and also quality of the auction itself. I mean, I'm sure BAT tries hard as it can to at least wrangle the descriptions, but they can only do so much about what people submit for photos. And boy, like sometimes it is unideal, but at least there have not yet been thumbs covering plates or bumpers being cut off. So there's that at least. I don't know. BAT is most definitely a different place now, because it used to be kind of like an elite auction of sorts. And they've tried to course correct that with their premium listings, but at the same time, the feed, okay, it's for better or worse, right? Because granted, it's no longer elite auctions across the board, but they are now a platform for conversation in the auto world, meaning that you could list anything from a rare Ferrari owned by like a dictator to a Oldsmobile Silhouette. What was the car that was listed?
Yeah, that's cool.
A mini. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's
live
cool.
on the
That's
same
not
platform.
my criticism. My criticism is like bad.
But the thing is,
997s with.
But yeah, so there's obviously going to be filler in between, because how do you truly decipher between like a pristine 997 and the like just about buy here pay here lot one? Because it could just be that the owner is awful at documenting the car, and you and I we're in the creative industry, so we understand how to package things aesthetically, but to like a Joe Schmo who like at best has like an iPhone 4, like that might be such a daunting thing, but he has a good car. It's just that it's daunting to piece something that doesn't look like a Craigslist ad together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a tough one. And maybe that's their challenge as well. Bring a trailer, is that like they know it's possibly a good car and that someone's gonna buy it, but at the same time the seller has no ability to translate that other than the written word, I guess. So I don't know. Anyways, but it is, you're right that it is no longer the prestige.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that, and,
Yeah.
and it still is a prestige platform. It's not just like these are only the best of the best, the rarest cars with the lowest miles, which is what I always thought of it as being. It is so cool that they accept stuff, and that if there is a car with low miles, that's where it's going to be.
It's just filtered because I think they've had salvaged cars on there as well, but because they have project cars as well.
Yeah.
And I was reading through their rules as well, and basically it's, if you don't have a project car, a car that is going to be listed with the title project car, most major things should be taken care of. Otherwise, it needs to be labeled as a project car, meaning that if it needs a clutch, if it needs, a water pump, even something, it has like 4-digit needs, it needs to be listed as a project car.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I think that's a good marker, although again, it's kind of up to the seller to figure all that out.
Right.
Or to be honest about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
tell me about the process, just a little bit about what did you do first preparing your BMW for sale?
Basically, it's everything I would have done over the course of the ownership anyways, which was take care of any and all problems, any and all upgrades that I was going to do to the car as far as like from a stock perspective. So from a mechanical standpoint, it's all good to go. I debated, and you pushed back on this tremendously, but because any car that I own, eventually I have it paint corrected, polished, coated in something to keep the paint fresh and clean, and this is my daily driver. So I didn't want to do it just yet because the car was going to get dirty in the rain, etc. And I kept up with it, but I didn't necessarily want to paint correct it to like a Concours like level. Anyway, so I got it polished anyways for the auction, and I know, much to your chagrin. So the car looks amazing. Like the paint, now there are virtually no swirl marks. I had any all just surface level scuffs polished out.
Who polished it?
No, I went to a different detailer this time up in the Heights, and they did a good job. So because it was hard to book someone months out at this point. So short of ceramic coating it, it's in pretty good aesthetic condition. Other than that, like you and I shot it from every single angle, from every single perspective, in very good lighting, and it is near brochure quality, not 90s brochure quality, because that uses like unnatural, like out of this world lighting that is incomprehensible.
Totally. And we took it to Jordan's shop, and you put it on the lift, and we
put it on a lift, did the details. So we got it all the checklists. Basically, what we did, maybe me more than you, was obsess over previous auctions, what makes them good, whether or not that it had a effect on closing price, who knows, but I just went through everything, and people asked about this, I'm going to address this. People, are concerned about this, I'm going to address this. I just don't want there to be open questions. Like, I just want it to be all answered in the thing, meaning that if it's a quiet auction, I would be pretty happy in terms of like there are 50 comments instead of like the 120 comments that there might be, because half those comments are about someone nitpicking on the like, oh, well, I see you use this, fastener for the wheel liner. Oh, that's not correct.
Yeah.
So I don't need any of that.
No, I mean, I think it's cool because, like I said, I think it will be an event that this car of this spec is being auctioned. I mean, think about how many. So in that year since the last rear-wheel drive manual wagon went up, how many E30 M3s do you think have sold on BAT? 30? Just in that time.
There have been a few.
So I mean, it's crazy. So if someone's been waiting, if someone's been wanting an E91 manual rear-wheel drive,
the problem
this is going to be the one.
Why the car is rare is not even the low production numbers. It's that they're very normal cars. Like, it's just a 328i, but in wagon format, and so they've been used up.
Yeah.
So the ones now that are left over are far and few between. So that's the rarity in it, is that it's a survivor of sorts to have low miles, be maintained, and available, because people also keep them. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited that this is like a one owner, all records thing. I've never had a car that is just turnkey ready. Like, usually there's always something to deal with in cars that have sold in the past. And this car is like about as ideal a condition. Like, this is the car that I would buy for myself. So, yeah. So the replacement, though, will probably not be that. No. It's either going to be... here's the dumb thing. I'm trying to reduce cars now.
Don't do that.
The problem is that I might actually grow a car out of this situation, in that I'll sell the car.
How likely do you think you'll sell the Celsior? Or do you just, after this selling experience, I think you'll just dread selling a car?
I don't know. I love the Celsior. That's the thing. And
well, I mean...
The only reason why I would ever sell the Celsior is upkeep
and that, insurance, like, and everything.
Yeah, part of upkeep, just like that I have to store it, that I have to check up on it, that I have to maintain it. Like, so it's going to cost money regardless of whether or not I use it. But I love the car. If I use that as a daily, that'd be great. I've been using it as a daily for the last 2 weeks.
How's that gone?
Actually, pretty okay. I mean, it's a comfortable daily. I mean, it's an LS400, so it is exactly as expected. A driving experience, and it's been rainy, so I haven't had to keep up with cleaning the car. It's black, and I'm obsessed. I am neurotic about cleaning black cars, and I have not had to clean it because it's just impossible during the rain. So, but I might keep the Celsior. I might not. I don't know. I'm going to supplant the daily driving situation. So I've still got the Carrera, which is fine as a occasional driver. I think the 997.2 is still top of list. And now I'm thinking about as if that weren't enough, because I'm complaining about having to take care of multiple cars, supplanting usage of the 997.2 with a 100 series Land Cruiser or Lexus LX 470.
That's a good idea.
Because I'm kind of I've been into them for a long time, but now I'm thinking, actually, it's not a bad idea.
No, it's a good idea.
It's durable. It's high up. I could park it on the street. My street floods when we have our Houston torrential downpours.
You mean our annual 500-year flood?
Yes. And I can just leave it on the street.
Yeah, I'm going to say something about that term.
Yes.
Because
no one actually understands what that means.
This is a fault of the term.
Yeah, it's not that it happens once every 500 years.
It's that the probability is like 1 in 500 of it happening in a given year.
Yeah.
But if everyone misinterprets the term,
they're like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Means that's a problem with the term.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't even know why they call it that, because 500 year, it's a combination of words. They should say,
right.
I get it.
It's a dumb term. If everyone gets it wrong, that's a problem with the terminology. Like Myron Vernus sent me and Blake a message after we went out to Ohio, and it was like this thing about this grammar, like this apostrophe society.
Yeah.
And this article was like, this old, I think they were British people, had this like apostrophe correct use organization, and they basically retired because the guy got too old and too tired, and so it's like, oh no, all grammar's going to hell. And it was kind of like a funny tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah.
And the article is listing like, you know, apostrophe proper use in these most extreme scenarios where it's like a word ending in S and it's plural and it's possessive and all this stuff, and how do you do that? And I'm like, I'm all for the right apostrophes. Like I do care about that stuff, but I'm like, I'm getting to these examples where I'm like, this is not a fault of the people that use it wrong. This is a fault of the language itself.
Oh my
it's
God.
Bad. It's
bad.
Like 500-year floods.
It's bad. It's no good.
Yeah.
Yeah. People completely misunderstand that.
Yeah.
Although Houstonians are now probably more educated than they have been about what that means, but in general, I think
the term sucks.
The term is not good. So, so back to this idea of 100 series Land Cruiser LX 470. It's probably going to be an LX 470 because they are cheaper than
so is that a
the Land Cruiser.
4.7?
It's 4.7.
Oh.
An actual 4.7 matching the nameplate. Here's the thing though. So they are cheaper because Toyota, I would rather have a Land Cruiser all day long because that's
it's the icon.
It's the icon. But the LX is the same car, same truck, but with extra features. And I think it's the extra features that
what are
causes,
the extra features? Oh, you mean that makes people don't want it?
Yeah, that make people don't want it. Because it increases the complexity, and in trucks people value simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
So it has automatic height control, which is air ride. It has things like night vision cameras and like about 25% more motorized electronic things to go wrong with, and so people don't particularly care for that. So relatedly to that, it will have air suspension if I buy, likely, because I noticed for some reason 90% of these LXs still have air suspension despite the fact that they fail almost all the time, much like Range Rover suspension or the Celsior, which has air suspension as well. So
can't get away from it.
I can't get away from it, but also I'm kind of intrigued because you can lower the car, raise the car up to, I think, 3 inches, which is not bad. I'm probably wrong on that figure, but I'm kind of into the idea. However, if I bought one and it failed, I would just switch it out with springs because it is not inexpensive to service, much like the Celsior, which is like $1,200 a corner.
Yeah.
And they don't make the parts anymore.
So the Land Cruiser, even in the same year, was predominantly...
No. Land Cruiser's air ride was optional in the LCI. And on the pre-facelift, it's all springs. Really? So people would just switch out with the Land Cruiser spec springs, which... Honestly, that's probably the end goal because if I got one of these,
you mentioned you wanted to lift it.
I wanted to lift it. I want to lift it with like an old Manny Moo kit, and so if I wanted to lift it, delete the running boards, basically I'd have to delete the air suspension anyways.
Yeah.
So I'd probably use it until it broke and then just do it.
So you're negating it because you'd be replacing the suspension anyway if it was a Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
So,
if it was a Land
so
Cruiser,
it's not like you're an unforced.
Yeah. No, not at all. So I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah.
And I'm completely fine with like 180, 200,000 mile example. Like, I'm not looking for like a Concours one. Like, I want it to be used. In fact, I sent you one today that was 395,000 miles.
Yeah.
One owner, which is insane. But it's not the highest mile one that I've seen listed because like over a year ago, I saw one with 495,000 miles for $4,500, which is a lot of money for a car that is that might still go, but basically, who knows?
Yeah.
At that point,
you got to replace everything. Probably.
Yeah, you got to replace everything. So, but that's impressive though. That I mean, on the original block, in theory, it will go. I mean, who knows all the stuff in between, but that's like you don't even hear about Mercedes diesels. I mean, I'm sure they can go that, but most people, when they talk about high mileage diesels, they're like, oh, it's got 300,000 miles. Yeah. But to go 400, 500,000 miles is
crazy.
You're edging towards that 1,000,000-mile Lexus achievement. So I love the idea of that. And honestly, if it was the right price, I would buy like a insanely high mileage one and refresh it as necessary because if you buy it for like $5,000 and it turns into like a $10,000, $12,000 car, that's still pretty fine because once you refresh it for that amount of money, it's a brand new car that keeps going. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by the idea of a reliable car. So, we'll see. Even though I'm picking the least reliable version of the reliable car.
No, that would be really cool. That was on my list of potentials. It was not something I was really enthused about because I don't like driving SUVs as a.
I've never owned one.
I don't. If it was like I only had the Porsche and that, I think I'd be kind of, I don't know.
Here's the alternate is that I could also just buy like a manual Cayenne or something. But I don't know if I would like that.
I think that
I don't think it's as charismatic, and it's gonna be a shit ton of trouble.
It's gonna be a lot of trouble, and also like I don't think that a manual is like adds to the Cayenne experience in a meaningful way.
No, it's just meant to be.
It's weird that
slightly
it's
more interesting. Yeah,
it's cool. It's weird that it's cool. It's cool.
It's the VW V6, although the V8 is, I guess, bespoke for.
So it's
Porsche.
Probably the VR6.
It's probably the VR6.
I really don't know, but I just found out recently that all Touaregs with the V6 are the VR6.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I wonder if the manual is also just a VW. I mean, it must likely is just a VW one. So meaning that the only thing that's Porsche about it is the badge. Mm-hmm. So that is the poo-poo point for the. I mean, but the fast versions are cool.
Yeah,
GTS turbo.
An early Cayenne turbo. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They're hideous, but they're cool.
Yeah, there's one down the street, and I look at all. I'm like, oh man! And unfortunately, they've put oversized Porsche wheels on it. Mm-hmm. You're out of period ones.
The period ones were cool.
The period ones are cool. I think, I would have kept those because they were pretty big for. I think they were 18s, which was perfect for the day.
Might have
and
been
perfect
more.
For the body.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they've come into themselves because they used to look like stretched 911s.
Yeah.
And now they look actually pretty okay.
Yeah. I mean, they were fast for the day. They're fast for now. They're fast for now.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that like that's come around. I think the first gen Touaregs are coming around
I think they look
style.
They look classy as hell.
Not ownership experience, but certainly style.
Yeah, you should get a V10 diesel Touareg or whatever.
Yep. I posted on Twitter the other day because I had not known that there was a W12 Touareg, which, by the way, the Touareg was already one of Volkswagen's most unreliable cars. Add to that Volkswagen's one of their most unreliable power plants, and that is honestly, if I had all the money in the world, I would totally daily drive a W12 Touareg. That sounds amazing.
It does.
And then there's the R50, which I didn't know existed. So the R50 is a souped up V10 turbo diesel Touareg. So it's a fast diesel. Oh, that sounds also insanely amazing and insanely terrible. So actually, I bet you that is a battle. I don't know what's worse, the W12 or the V10 diesel. That is a hard one.
It's got to be a W12.
No one's lived to tell the tale of owning both. So
did that V10 diesel go in anything else?
I don't know. I
can't think
I bet you there's some Euro, like an Audi A8 or something. Maybe had something like that.
Maybe.
But I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the Touareg looks great. But yeah, I think a Cayenne with a manual like is a cool idea.
Yeah,
and I have a search for them, and I love looking at them. But I don't think
you think about honestly any manual SUV is going to pique your interest, regardless of whether or not it is good. If an RX 300 had a manual option, people would be obsessed with it, just because it was a manual CUV that had a manual when nothing else was available like that. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you though that the Cayenne manual probably not like an engaging car to drive, but it's interesting that you can do that. Yeah,
but it'd be like that little bit special, like E91, and then you lose like the one, like you lose the utilitarian appeal, or like the park it on the street, or because it's a Porsche, you lose like the don't care about it.
Yeah, I really wish they had a true base spec Cayenne, like a rear-wheel drive manual base thing, because I think even with manual you still, I think is it all-wheel drive standard on those? I don't know.
I'm sure
might be. Anyways, I think if you had a base model, but that's the weird thing too about the Cayenne, is that it has no roots in history like other SUVs. Like a G-Wagon is rooted in utilitarianism, or utilitarian usage. The Cayenne was designed as a luxury SUV
and as a spin-off from the Touareg.
Yeah, it's a spin-off of Touareg, which was Volkswagen's luxury SUV.
Yeah.
So there's almost no reason to have a manual in a way, because unless it's like a wonderfully snappy short throw manual, it's just all you've done is inconvenience the luxury experience.
Yeah.
So that's an odd proposition. But I'd have one, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
And they made them up until the last generation, so...
yeah, I think in the first generation, I think you could get like a GTS or something interesting in a manual. And I think it was the last generation... No, it was only the 2011 generation where you could only get the V6.
Yeah, and manual. Yeah.
Manual.
Yeah, you're right. And then everything else... Was it PDK? No, it was not PDK.
I am not sure. It could be.
Oh, wow. That'd be a proposition.
Yeah.
Getting PDK in that. Just because the Macan and Cayenne owner, I feel like are not people who are invested in owning a Porsche. It's just that they've bought a thing with a Porsche badge.
Yeah.
And so to maintain something with like PDK, which has its own inherent issues, would be something else. But then again, this is the same thing. It's a Volkswagen thing. Can you imagine owning a GTI as a casual car owner, not an automotive enthusiast, but buying a GTI with DSG, and then DSG, as it's known to be unreliable, having to upkeep that in the long run? That would be terrible.
I mean, I feel like casual people don't buy them secondhand.
Maybe. I don't know. Like GTI is such a nameplate where like you're not buying a Golf. You've gone to buy GTI.
Right.
Whether or not you are interested in cars. And so, I don't know. I've seen a lot of beat up GTIs where it's like, I don't think this person like honestly cared about this car. But anyways, so there you have it. All right. I think that might be a podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, thank you for listening once again. Do follow us on the social media at New496 on Instagram. And we have an email for some reason.
New496.
New496 at
possibly spelled out or something.
Yeah, gmail.com.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Goodbye.